Hey book club, Dan here from One Man Book Club. I'm super pumped to share the Checquy files with you. I've talked about the Rook and Stiletto. That's book 1 and book 2. Blitz, this is book 3 of the Checquy files, and it just came out like a couple of weeks ago, and I was so excited to read it, and now I've read it, and I'm gonna share it with you. If you haven't read the Checquy files, put it on your to-do list, because these books are so much fun, unless you don't like fun. If you hate to have fun when you read, then just go ahead and stop now. This book isn't for you, but for everyone else, that is, those of us who love books that make us laugh and smile and wish they would never end, you might want to check out the Checquy files. Again, this is book 3, Blitz. Don't start here, start with book 1, it's the Rook, but this one's about book 3, Blitz, and I'm going to address my first comments to the people who want to know specifically about Blitz, and then stay tuned in about 1 minute. I'm going to talk to those of you who have never read the Checquy files before and want to know what it is. So here we go. If you want to know if Blitz lives up to the high standards that the first 2 books set, if you want to know if I liked it, if you want to know if you should read Blitz, well, here you go. Yes, yes, and yes. See? Really easy. Blitz was a different reading experience you're going to find than the first 2 books, though. There are 2 stories told concurrently. The first takes place in World War II London as the city lived through this war-rationed life during the day and the Luftwaffe rained bombs during the night. The second story takes place in our modern day, chronologically after the events of Stiletto. And each story unfolds as the pages turn. And part of the fun of Blitz is discovering how the story of the past and the story of today connect in the end, because you know they're going to. It was written in the style much like Kate Morton, who's another Australian author, just like Daniel O'Malley, by the way. Kate Morton does these stories where she writes a story from the past and then the story from the future, and somehow the two stories meet up in the end. And anyway, super cool. I love reading her stories. I loved reading Blitz by Daniel O'Malley. Now, both stories have the same believe it or not attitude towards the often random and curious powers and threats that are hidden in plain sight that I was expecting, because I'm used to the Checquy files. But I also found things that in this book, Blitz, were maybe a bit more serious this time around. There's a lot of Checquy lore and history to unpack. But if you're like me, I predict you'll enjoy the detours and the nuance. This world of Daniel O'Malley's continues to impress, and I can't wait for the next installment. Now, are you new to the Checquy files? Okay, this part is for you. Here's what you need to know. The Checquy is a secret arm of the British government that protects all the regular fish and chips eating, tube riding Brits from the very many supernatural threats that face the world every day. Wait, you don't know about all the supernatural threats? Well, of course you don't. That's why the Checquy exists. You can thank them for that. Now, Checquy, if you go to look it up, it's Checquy. Checquy. They deal with all the deadly and life-threatening, slimy, oozy, otherwise disgusting, gross, and sometimes smelly, often ridiculous, and always crazy threats, so we don't have to. They're an off-the-books government-sponsored department of 007s with X-Men skills, and they are very good at what they do. I often say this series is like 007 times X-Men times the X-Files. The fun starts from page 1 of book 1, which is the Rook, when a woman opens her eyes in the dark and it's pouring rain and she's surrounded by dead people on the ground around her, and they're all wearing latex gloves, but she has no memory of who she is. She has no memory of how she got there. Her only clue is a letter written by the person who used to live inside her body that gives her enough hints that she can start putting things together. Well, the mystery of her begins to unravel. The crazy continues in book 2, which is called Stiletto, when the greatest enemy the Checquy have ever faced suddenly reappears after decades of assumed extinction. Is this the end of the Checquy or the beginning of a new partnership? Blitz, book 3, carries on the tradition. The series is so unexpected. It's so unique. It's so clever. It's so creative and so much fun. Unfortunately, here's the content commentary. Unfortunately, you'll need to watch out for several instances of the F word throughout all the books. You know that kind of way the casual use of the F word is thrown around by British people sometimes? I don't know. I'm American. I'm not a Brit. But sometimes I watch movies and there's kind of like this casual way they throw around the F word. But anyway, that's all in here. Throughout all 3 books, there's plenty of slimy and occasionally greasy violence. There's no sexual content though. So if you're okay with the language and the greasy, goofy, violence, it's not gory, it's just silly violence. There's a ton of fun to be had in the Checquy Files. Now, while the 3 books can each be read as a standalone, meaning they're not like one continuous story, they do build on each other. So I recommend reading them in order. Books 2 and book 3 assume an understanding of what has happened in book 1, and book 3 assumes an understanding of book 2. So I recommend the Checquy Files, best for adults because of the language, but boring people, don't even bother. You're just not going to have any fun reading. Boring people won't have fun reading fun books because these are so much fun. This is the Checquy Files by Daniel O'Malley. Blitz book 3 was a winner. Highly recommend. Happy reading, everyone.